Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Vet Chats, where we help veterans share their awesome stories and keep positivity going throughout the veteran community. I hope everybody had a great Monday. We're doing this on a Monday because we had the Super Bowl yesterday. And I feel like a new woman. I got new hair. I don't know, just feeling fresh. But we have an awesome guest for you tonight. We are going to learn all about benefits, any questions you guys had. Some of you submitted some questions. We're going to get them answered. So we're going to have Army veteran Cailin Hoskins on. She joined our Facebook group and she was commenting, saying that she was a county veteran service officer. So I reached out to her. I said, we should have you on, get some questions answered. And yes, so she just joined. So let's get her on. All right. Sometimes it takes a little while.
Hello.
Hi, hello there. How are you?
Good. Living that mom life, so sorry in advance.
I feel that. And your little one is 2 months old, right?
Yes. And I've got a 2-year-old too, but luckily hubby's doing bedtime with her, so we're good.
Good. Oh, that is so sweet. I am almost 18 months postpartum, so I know I know the feeling.
Yeah.
No worries here. It's so sweet. Oh, I missed that. The fuzzy head.
Yeah.
So awesome. Well, I appreciate you doing this even more because I know it's stressful, but thank you so much.
Of course.
I know I reached out a while ago and you had a new baby, so I'm glad we could finally get you on.
Yes, I was really excited. I think I found you on Instagram first, and then saw that there was a Facebook page too, and so yeah, really, I'm really excited for this group that you've put together. So I'm excited to be of service.
Yes. Thank you so much. And the Facebook group, it's so funny. Like I was telling you on the phone, you just never know what's gonna hit, what people are gonna see, or all that. So I did reach out. We got a few questions though, so I'm excited to get those answered. But let's start off talking about you, a little on your background.
So I joined the National Guard in 2013. I had already been in college a few years and decided I needed a break, and I knew if I took a break from college and didn't do anything that I was never going to go back. So I joined the National Guard in 2013. I did my basic at Fort Leonard Wood, went to AIT at Fort Sill. I was Air Defense Artillery. And it was really pretty cool. The job that I had joined had only just opened to females. I want to say like 5 or 6 years prior to when I had joined. So it was very male dominated, but it was an exciting.
Why was that?
Exciting. And so then we got activated. We got deployed in 2017. We went to Iraq, and we were in Iraq for 6 months, and then the war was over. So they sent us to Afghanistan. So that was kind of a neat experience to kind of get the dual campaign in one tour. And then, yes, we were deployed 17, 18, and then I got out of the Guard in 19. So.
Wow, and what was your job again, and why was it not open to females?
It was Air Defense Artillery. I don't know why it wasn't open to females, probably just with the whole where females weren't in combat positions. It was considered a combat role. So Air Defense Artillery, we were trained on the Avenger weapon system with the Stinger missiles. Okay. And the unit that I had joined, they were in rotation to deploy stateside to DC. And basically, they're there to prevent 9/11 from ever happening again. And but I never got to go to DC because they sent us overseas instead. So
yes, you got to be a whole other world, pretty much.
Yeah, but when we deployed, and you'll appreciate this, being a Navy vet, when we deployed, we actually cross-trained on a CRAM, which the Army stole from the Navy. It's the Sea Whiz in the Navy. And so,
Yes.
yes. So got cross-trained on that, and that's actually what we deployed on, which that's an amazing system. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, I remember having to, I couldn't tell you what CWIS stands for, but I had to learn it for one of my warfare. You probably know.
Yeah, well, I don't know. CRAM is counter rockets, artillery, and mortar. So it
Okay.
basically, all the radars, they pick up incoming, and you shoot it. We're shooting it out of the air before it can hit the base. So it means we stayed on base the whole time, but obviously a very important job to make sure everyone's sleeping safely at night. So.
Yes, definitely. So how was it like coming home from this deployment? Did you, because I know, because since you were a National Guard before, like, and do you come back with the Army? Is there any debriefing, or do you just get sent back home to your state?
So we had demobilization. We spent a couple weeks at Fort Bliss when we first got back to the States, going through medical and all your gear and everything. And then in the Guard, they're supposed to do a 30, 60, 90 where your next 3 drills after your deployment are supposed to kind of be a debrief. Didn't quite work out that way for us. We went right back into the regular schedule of drills, but it so yes and no. It's interesting because in the Guard, you're already living the double life. You have your career, your family, school, everything, and then you do the military on the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer. But I don't know, I find it interesting because you have to focus more and be really into your job because you're not doing it every day. And so you have to be really into it and make sure you're paying attention. So
Yeah, because you're right. It's so much easier when you're on the job every day, you're learning, you're around people, but when you're only doing it once a month, and that you have to really take the initiative to keep up with whatever trade you're doing.
Yes.
So yeah, I can see how that. Okay, we got a comment. I didn't know how badass Cailin was yet. Waiting on her. Is that someone you know?
I don't know. I don't see the comment. Oh, yeah. Leave him alone. He's fine. He's a friend from high school.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. So you ended up not re-enlisting. What was kind of behind that choice?
I joined the military at a certain time for a very specific reason. Like I said, I needed a break from school, and I was looking for that stability and that the discipline and whatnot, and I felt like I had found it at that time. And I just, I don't know. When I joined, I've never planned on making it a career. I never planned on staying in. I don't know if I had planned to only do one contract, but the time came and it was, I felt like I got out of it what I wanted to get out of it. And so I was done.
Yeah, of course. So we have a question. Is it difficult living that double life?
It's a unique situation. 'Cause like I said, when you're not, you have to really be on the ball when you're in it because you're not in it all the time. And I feel like, obviously my only experience of active duty is deployment, so I can't speak for active duty, but I would think that when that's your life 24/7, that I don't want to say it's easier, but that's just all it is. Whereas that double life, as I mentioned, you have a lot more to focus on, keeping everything together. So yeah, it's kind of, like I said, it's a harder question just because I don't actually have the experience of active duty.
Yeah, I could see that because you're also trying to continue your normal life, and,
Mm-hmm.
career-wise, that's gonna take
Yeah,
away from certain opportunities. I
yeah,
get that.
yeah. My thing too with like with a drill weekend, they say, oh, it's 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer, but it was never just that.
Mm,
I mean, very often we would have 3-4 day drills. My unit was 3 hours away from where I lived, and so
oh
I
wow.
mean, you're packing and traveling the day before, the day after. So I mean, it's not just 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks in the summer. Like they make it out to be this glorious option, and it's not
Okay.
always that glorious.
Hey, they got to sell it somehow, right?
That's true. Recruiters are recruiters, so.
Yeah, yeah, they say what they gotta say. So when you got out, you obviously went to college for something else. How did you end up in your position?
So I have a bachelor's degree in psychology, and when I got home from deployment, I was working on my master's. I was going to be I wanted to be a guidance counselor in a school, and then when we got home from deployment, I was very lucky that my unit was very adamant of go see your county service officer, go, even if nothing's wrong, just go say hello, give them your 214, just get your name out there, because if you ever do need anything, they're going to be a really great resource. And so when we got home, we went and saw them, and I say we because my husband is a veteran as well. And I actually sat down with the service officer at the time to talk about doing a claim because I did have an injury. And a couple months later, there was an opening, and I fell in love. I mean, we always joke about when we go to training, they always say, oh, it's the best job you'll ever have. But it really is. I got my job because I went to see about my own benefits. And so it benefited me even further than I ever imagined that it would.
That is so cool. First off, I loved how was it your unit or someone told you while you were in to go see them, to go see your county veteran?
It was my unit leadership when we were doing demobilization. They told us to go see our county office because in Ohio, there's a county veteran service office in every county. So Ohio's a really great state for veteran benefits in general. But yeah, we have one in every county in Ohio.
And that's not the case across the board for other states?
No, it's not. I mean, I don't know about what every other state does, but I do know that that's not the case in every state.
Okay, so who is your employer? Are you considered like a federal employer, or is it at that state level or local?
I actually am technically a county employee. I work for the county.
Okay.
But in Ohio, we are mandated by the state to exist. So my employer is technically my county, and we get trained through the Ohio Department of Veteran Services. And so that's like our base accreditation, and we get accredited with the VA, and then we can choose which service organizations to be accredited with as far as doing claim work. So like I'm accredited with VFW, the American Legion, the DAV. So also there is also a national organization too, the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers, and I'm accredited with them as well. They're an amazing resource. They spend a lot of time in DC working on federal legislation for veteran benefits.
Okay, so is that kind of like its own VSO, or?
Yeah, so like you can have the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers be your representative if you wanted to. But on a practical level, you'd really be looking at like those known service organizations organizations like VFW, DAV, that kind of stuff.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting. Thank you for. I was really curious about that.
Yeah.
So you were going to get benefits, and then they offer you a job. What was one of the most surprising things you learned right away? Like something that I guess you were surprised to learn about.
The different levels of benefits. I mean, there's local, state, federal benefits. And so even, like I said, I know Ohio does really great things for veterans. There's a lot of state benefits that a lot of people may not be aware of in their own state.
Mm-hmm.
And the level of benefits and how deep things can go.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think looking at state benefits, a lot of us rule those out, or we're just not as aware of them because, we're talking from veterans all over the country. Everyone's from a different state normally.
Right.
And I think we forget about them. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Oh, bye, baby.
I thought she would settle, maybe fall asleep, but she's just sitting there and be crazy.
Yeah.
But that's all right.
They're on their own schedule, especially that young.
That's the truth.
Yeah, all night. So wow, that's a lot. You're you're back to working full time.
Yeah, I went back to work last week. So we don't actually, being on the county level, we don't actually get leave, but I was lucky to be able to take as much time as I was. So, because I know federally you get 12 weeks off. Yeah. So unfortunately I don't fall under that, like I said, I work for the county, but my office is a really small office, and we're pretty close knit, and we take care of each other. So, because that's in Ohio, not in every state. In order to be a veteran service officer, you do have to be a veteran, and so I think that is a huge selling point for people to come see us, because even though obviously, like, I don't know what goes on in the Navy or Marines, or obviously my experience is vastly different from our Vietnam vets. We're all veterans, and so we have at least that base level of connection to be able to talk about our experiences.
Absolutely, and don't ever downplay that at all, because just someone knowing that they're talking, just knowing that another veteran's on the line when you answer, or you're the one that's going to help them, you're advocating for them, that makes you feel so much more comfortable, because you know what it's like to have to fight for your benefits or ask the right questions. Sometimes we don't even know what questions to ask, which I think we'll get into later. We had one more question. What was the most important part for you when it came to getting benefits?
Like, what was most important to me to get my benefits? I know, healthcare is absolutely ridiculous on every level. I mean, private health insurance. So being able to get healthcare through the VA was really important to to be covered and not have that be a worry for any kind of issue. Getting those healthcare benefits, and then obviously having some extra income every month has absolutely been a life changer for us, for my family. Especially in today's age, the littlest bit of extra income can make a huge difference in a lot of different areas of your life. So, yeah. Yeah,
without a doubt, especially when you're talking childcare. And going through 2 pregnancies now, that's not. Hi, Rachel. Recommendations on what route to go to increase her VA disability.
So get familiar with, it's called the Schedule of Ratings. And the Schedule of Ratings is what the VA, when you can look up your disability, what you're actually connected for. Within the Schedule of Ratings, and it tells you what you need for that next rating. So if you're rated at 30 and the next rating is 60, go look at what it says is the qualifications for 60. Take that to your doctor, say, hey, I think I fall under this. Do you think I fall under this? Get it in black and white, get it in writing. The schedule of ratings is going to be your best friend when you're looking for an increase. The VA tells you exactly how to do it. And also, I mean, when you get denied something, even when you get the letter that says that you've been denied, it tells you what you need to get that connected. And so, yes, the VA can be a nightmare and play games, and it can be really frustrating, really hard. But I always look at it, it's a game. You got to figure out how to play the game, honestly. And but they tell you right there in your letters that you get. So
yeah. So when you're saying go to your doctors, do you mean like go to your VA doctors? What if you don't have a doctor already? How would you recommend someone seek that?
So if you don't have a doctor, if you don't have medical evidence, the VA does accept, they call them buddy statements, lay statements. Usually what I recommend is someone who's known you for a long time. So a lot of times that'll be a spouse, a partner, a sibling, somebody who's known you for a long time and has seen the progression of your disability, as far as looking for an increase. As far as an initial rating, someone who knew you before the military and after the military is going to be a really great resource, because they're going to say, hey, I knew them before they went in and they were fine. Now they're coming out limping. Like, obviously it happened in the service. So buddy statements can be a really, really great resource. But because regardless, they're going to send you for a medical exam. Even if you don't have a doctor, you're going to have to go to, it's called a compensation and pension exam, when you are filing that claim. So, but I mean, if you can, even if you go to, I don't know, if you can get any kind of medical evidence, it's really going to be beneficial to you. And
so if people don't have it documented, like say they were prevented from going to medical while they were in, or there's such a stigma about getting help, how would you recommend them for?
That's absolutely where your buddy statements are going to come in, and we see that all the time because you're told to suck it up and push on. Change your socks and drink water. You're told here's some I-8s, go on with your life. That's absolutely where your buddy statements are going to come in, and someone who saw the accident, saw the injury, that can say, yeah, I saw this happen. And then you can also write your own statement of why you didn't go to medical, explaining that how you've been self-medicating, whether it be, ibuprofen or heat packs or whatever. Write your own statement too, because when there's conflicting information, they're supposed to give the benefit of the doubt to the veteran. So
okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's a great point. That like, how are you handling this? How are you self-treating this ailment, whatever it is, or if you like mental health issue? I think that is a great point.
Another thing with mental health stuff that they'll look at too is your personnel record, because a lot of times if there's been an incident, whether it was like combat trauma or military sexual trauma, if it was never reported, a lot of times you can see it in the personnel records where they were really great soldier, sailor, airman, and then all of a sudden they started slacking off or getting in trouble or having disciplinary issues, and that's something else that they look at, especially with military sexual trauma that does not get reported more often than not. That's a big thing that I've seen help people, because a lot of times it's gonna show up in other places, like I said, with like disciplinary action. So that's something to think about too.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. So how do you get access to your personnel records?
You can request them yourselves through the National Personnel Records Center, or your VSO can help you request them. I'm requesting records all the time, and that's usually, and that's really my job, because I mean anybody can fill out an application, and honestly, the applications from the VA are pretty self-explanatory. Just reading through the questions, but the big part of it is that development of the claim and getting all of your evidence, you want to make it as hard as possible for the VA to deny it. And so if you have all of your evidence, that's where you're going. And so I'm constantly requesting personnel records, medical records, whether it be service records or current medical records. Very rarely am I filing a claim on the first time that the veteran comes in to see me, because I want to have all of the information before putting it in, because the VA is going to take their time. It's the government. So if I would rather my veterans wait with me while I'm getting everything together and organized to submit, as opposed to waiting with the VA while they're getting the records, because they're going to take their sweet time, always.
Yes, I think we all know that. Oh, here's a good one from Rachel. Is MST supposed to be separate part of the rating, or does it typically fall under PTSD?
So it's going to fall under PTSD.
Why is that?
I mean,
sorry.
It's a stressful. I mean, obviously, it's a stressful event. It's a traumatic event.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the other thing that a lot of people get frustrated with too, is you're never going to get rated for two of the same things. So like if you put in a claim for anxiety and depression, you're only going to get one rating for mental health as a whole. So because it's in the same schedule, the difference with the MST claims as opposed to the PTSD claims, well, I guess it's not that much different. With a PTSD claim and an MST claim, the VA wants a statement. Whether there's record of it or not, whether it was reported or not, you have to write a statement of what happened. Mm-hmm. Whether it be a combat-related stressor or the MST. But I will say that the Benefits Administration does have specialized teams that handle MST claims, that they are specially trained in the MST claims, especially because, like I said, more often than not, they're not reported. And so they are trained to be looking in those records, like I was talking about with your personnel records and disciplinary stuff. The VA has special teams. There are specific regional offices that handle only MST claims.
That is really good to hear. And I know the VA has really stepped up their game in that department. I know they've been getting a lot of heat from Congress to do that, mm-hmm. So I'm glad to hear that. So what if like you just, okay, I want to know this personally. I want to, put in a claim for MST. I just want to report it. I want that to be another number. Like I want the reports to be more accurate. So I want to report mine because, as we know, so many go unreported. But I don't have any mental health symptoms. What do you think they would do with my claim?
So you can get rated at 0%, okay. Where they recognize that something happened, but you don't have symptoms right now. And, a lot of people get frustrated with 0% ratings for a lot of things. Like hearing loss is a big one that a lot of people get rated, but at 0%. It's better to get rated at 0% than to get denied, because you can always request an increase. Mm-hmm. when things go down the road. So if something happened and you're not having symptoms with anything, with any kind of injury, illness, put it in, put the claim in. It's a lot easier to update it down the road than it is. The longer you wait to do it, the VA is going to start to question like the continuity.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. And again, I think that's smart to do too, because you never know when that's going to, I don't know, creep up on you, right? I mean, with any injury, especially with something like that, you never know when it's going to come up again. So yeah, that is great advice. So we have about 15 minutes left, and I wanted to get to these questions. So the first one, what is the most misunderstood or underutilized benefit?
I really think, I hate to say like all the benefits in general, like so many people choose not to do it because they think it's too hard or they don't deserve it or somebody deserves it more than me. I hear that all the time. I'm always having people in my office of, I see these guys with no legs, they deserve it more than me. But like, you getting benefits is not taking benefits away from anyone else. Like, if I can give any piece of advice, is that like, stop selling yourself short because you think somebody else has it worse. But I think looking at some of the local benefits, or like veterans can get free passes to the national parks, hunting and fishing license. If you own your home, there are tax exemptions for being 100% disabled by the VA, your license plates, that kind of thing. There's a lot of things that you might not think that there could be a benefit for if you don't ask. The VA home loan is one that I think goes a lot underutilized. I want to say everything. I hate to say that, but just so many people are not looking into any benefits at all for a million different reasons, but you don't know unless you ask.
Yeah, and one that I don't see talked about a lot, because who would really want to talk about it, is like burial services or memorial services. Do you have a lot of people that come in with like asking about that?
Yes. So I do see a lot of widows that come to see me for, like the VA does offer a burial benefit, like a one-time payment to help you pay for the funeral. And there's also survivor benefits, depending on whether the veteran died of a service-connected disease, illness, injury, or not. There's like a monthly benefit that your survivor can possibly be eligible for as well. So I like, but I don't like, I have those conversations while the veteran is still living, especially if they get connected for something that is probably going to potentially be listed as a cause of death. Whether, like, especially like when we look at our Vietnam guys with heart disease and diabetes and all that kind of stuff. It's with that, what I always tell people, even if it's not the main cause of death, get it listed somewhere on the death certificate. If you have something that you are service connected for listed on your death certificate, that's really going to help your survivor to get benefits that they could potentially be eligible for.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a fun conversation, but it is so necessary to have that, because I bet you there's so many people who miss out on that benefit because they just simply avoided that conversation, or who wants, it's uncomfortable to ask about, even like your spouse.
And that's another thing too, is talk to your families about what you're service connected for. I get a lot of people that come in and they come in like, oh yeah, my husband was a veteran, but they don't have a clue of what they were suffering with, what their time was like in the service. And I understand that, especially, I'm really lucky that my husband is a veteran as well. So we have that shared experience.
Yeah.
But if that's not the case, it can be hard to talk about those things and what you experienced. But yeah, talk to your families about what's going on, or at least have the paperwork somewhere that say, hey, get this when the time comes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So the next one is, and I thought this was perfect for you. Do they have issues providing career services to veterans in rural areas?
So there's a lot of issues in rural areas in general. So I am in a rural county in Ohio. And actually, we've just recently partnered up with Purdue University is doing research it's called Reaching Rural Veterans. And they've put together all these numbers of how rural counties are and everything. And once a month, they come out to one of our local food pantries to reach veterans and they're constantly doing surveys. I did an interview with one of the researchers from Purdue University of specific issues that rural veterans have as opposed to living in a more populated area. So the answer is yes. As a whole, rural veterans do seem to be at a disadvantage. But you've got to advocate for yourself. Nothing's going to, even in the city, nothing's going to be handed to you. You have to advocate for yourself. You just kind of have to advocate a little bit harder in the rural areas, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I just thought of this because I know a lot of times they provide transportation to your VA appointment. Do they provide transportation to your offices?
So my office, we do offer transportation for VA appointments or VA referred appointments, like the VA sends you out into the community. I don't know about specifically so we do have a transportation service in our county that people pay for, and we'll have them bring them to us. But also like we'll give our veterans passes to that. It's not a taxi, but it's a local transportation service. We'll help our veterans get that transportation for the things that we can't transport for, like coming to see us. Or I had a veteran just the other day that we were transporting him for a medical appointment, but he wanted to sit down with me and talk about benefits. And so we had our driver bring him back to see me before he took him home from his medical appointment. So, yes, we're going to do what we need to do to take care of our veterans.
Yeah, that is really cool. So we got one more question, and this was, how does the current disability compensation system inform secondary gain malingering? This is from USMC Vet, so I'm sorry if I got this wrong, but I think they're asking about kind of how do they prevent malingering?
So, okay, so
how would
I'm not sure.
Prevent it,
yeah,
in your position? Do you ever would you ever not go through with a case because it's kind of like clear that they're either faking systems or symptoms?
That's a good question. So, I'm not a medical professional, so I can't make that decision. My job is to fill out the paperwork, honestly. Okay. And so if a veteran comes to me and wants to file a claim, I'm going to be honest with them of, hey, you don't really have a shot at this, and here's why. But if they want to go forward with it, all right, here's the paperwork. Because the thing is, you have a hard enough time getting claims through where you have all of the evidence in your back pocket that, sure, there definitely are people who get away with things. But more often than not, it's gonna come out. So there have been times where I've told people, I can't fill out this paper. Here, you fill it out yourself. I'll send it in for you, but I can't fill this out for you. But yeah, so yes and no. I can't not fill out the paperwork if the veteran wants me to, but I'm going to be honest with them of, you don't have a shot here, buddy.
Gotcha. Yeah, I wanted to ask you about your training. I know we're coming up on time and I hear the baby and I know that feeling. So it's like, all right.
Yeah.
So one more question from Viking Mike. Why is it so difficult to get legitimate claims approved?
I don't want to go there, but there's definitely differences within when we see different leadership higher up in our government. There's my husband's laughing behind me. It's sad, but it's true. Just kind of like whatever the current state of the federal government is, things have changed. Honestly, the biggest issue is the lack of consistency, and that's on the VA's part. There's definitely things that are supposed to be black and white, but then you get one random rater that is reading it completely different than the next guy. There's definitely a lack of consistency within the VA, and that's something that we're always fighting. And if you have somebody in your corner to fight for you and, keep appealing it, don't give up, because as long as you continuously pursue your claim, you're going to save your date of claim from when you originally started. But the second you give up, if you decide to go back at it later, you've lost all that time that you've been fighting. So just keep fighting your claims. Don't give up on your claim. If you truly have it and you don't give up on it, keep fighting, because the truth is going to come out.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. And reach out to your local veteran service officers, county veteran service officers. You've inspired me just by talking with you. I'm definitely going to do that, because I did not do that my first time, and I think that would have been really beneficial to me. Well, Cailin, thank you so much. I know you're busy working full time, little babies, but thank you so much for being here and answering these questions. I know we helped a lot of vets out tonight, and thank you everyone on the chat for joining. Thank you for all the great questions. This was an awesome conversation.
Thanks. Yeah. I can't help everybody's personal questions, but I'm definitely willing to be a sounding board and help point you in the right direction if anybody wants to reach out to me in the group. So
yes, yeah, she's in the group, so if you ever have a question, drop it in. I will tag her and we will get you that advice. All right. Thank you everyone. I hope you have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.